I have agency even in the most adverse situations.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the Jeff Heilman Project. We are almost toward the end of the year of 2025. And Jeff, before we get started with today's broadcast, I just wanted to say, how was your vacation? How are you doing? Did you enjoy Turks and Caicos?
I did. No.
Caicos? How did they say it?
Caicos.
Caicos. Turks and Caicos,
That's
if
how,
you were local.
That's how they say it.
Yeah.
I'm not making fun.
Caicos.
That's how they say it. It's Caicos.
It was our first trip ever to Turks and Caicos, and the island vibe was awesome, and it was 85 degrees with some moments of monsoon-type rain, but it would come through and go out.
Oh, that was so good when it was
just
in the
refreshing.
We were sitting in the open lobby.
Yes.
And it was sheets. I mean, when we lived in Texas, and you have there's a reason why storm drains could have.
Oh my gosh, you could lose a child in a storm drain.
You could lose an
Texas.
NFL football player in a storm drain. Those things are
big.
massive.
They were big.
And that's the last time that I had seen it rain like that, to where it's raining so hard that you cannot see in front of your face, which is normally is fine, but then it starts the lightning, and it was like within a mile. And so it was time to get out of the pool.
Well, I did hear, like Bermuda, I heard one of the taxi drivers talking about the fact that they didn't have, it was the guy on the paddleboard, was talking about rainwater, cisterning rainwater for the island to have water because there's no lakes on Turks and Caicos either. So they definitely need the rain. And they've learned since 1972, when there wasn't even any electricity on the island, how to prosper and thrive as an island.
They didn't have electricity in 1972 is what he said. And now they absolutely are booming.
Booming.
I mean, the Ritz-Carlton that we stayed at was probably a $300 million hotel, and it's 4 years old, and it was in 97% occupancy at a rack rate of $1,200 a night. Like, what?
Yeah.
So we see this. We're seeing the separation of the upper class is just running away with the money, and the folks in the middle are becoming the folks in the bottom 80, and the question is not what is the government going to do about my problem. The question is, what am I going to do about this problem? And the answer is, you got to find out a way to make leveraged money. And Mike Tyson has proved that you can make $400 million 1099, but if you don't have compounding assets creating cash flow for you, you're going to have to keep fighting and working and slaving away in order to maintain whatever lifestyle you get accustomed to. So.
Well, speaking of problems and overcoming problems, today's episode is around overcoming trauma and how we can encourage one another in the ability to overcome traumatic events. Washington, while we were waiting for you to get started in the podcast room, was reading us an article that stated, and maybe Andrew could link it into the podcast, that playing Tetris actually immediately after recalling a traumatic event or going through a traumatic event, that a 30-minute session of playing Tetris can actually begin to rewire and program your brain in the synapses and the visual stimulation of the regurgence of the memories and help you to actually overcome trauma-related stressful occurrences. So other than playing Tetris, he's funny. He's like, well, next time I'm in a plane crash, first thing I'm going to do is pick up my Nintendo and start playing Tetris. But the reality is, everybody probably has traumatic events or is going through a traumatic event or has gone through a traumatic event in their history and in their past. And while some have learned how to overcome or shove it down or get through it, get by it, others haven't. And it's to those people that I'd like to, speak to and encourage in today's episode with anything that perhaps you've learned or read about that would help people get through a traumatic event and get over a traumatic event.
So First of all, I want to talk about the difference between the sympathetic nervous system, and sympathetic is exactly what it means. It's impacted by and is sympathetic toward whatever the stimulus is that's coming in, versus a parasympathetic nervous system. And we have both. Parasympathetic nervous system operates parallel to the stimulus, but not impacted by it. As you and I have made mental toughness training the primary focus for our family over the last 20 years, we've realized that what the flow state guy talks about, that 45-degree angle between things that are too hard, but not too hard, but just hard enough, and your skill, that you're skilled, but not so skilled that you don't have a little bit of a challenge. That 45-degree angle between challenge and skill ends up creating a flow state. And so you can actually rewire your mind, your nervous system, to pivot from things that have happened to us in the past that took us off the rails to those very same things actually creating a flow state for us, to where we actually don't get really excited until things get harder. And that can be done through a series of things, but effectively it has to do with, number one, the narrative that we tell ourselves about ourselves and about the things that happen to us. And when I say the narrative, I'm not talking liberal or Democrat or Republican. I'm talking about the story that we tell ourselves about ourselves and the things that happen to us, broken down into two parts. Those are the facts. Those are the things that actually happened, and the opinions. And most people would say, well, you don't know what happened to me. That would be a fact, right? I don't know what happened to them, and the facts are what they're talking about. And we always focus on the facts because we think it's the facts, because our brains are hardwired to look for danger, to mitigate risk in order to keep us alive, right? We don't think about the chicken pot pie sitting in the cave. We think about the saber-toothed tiger who's out there trying to eat us. And we're just a meal for the saber-toothed tiger. But for us, it's our life. So it's more important to us because you're at risk of dying. So because of that, we tend to focus on the facts. And the truth is about narrative is the facts are not what controls
how we respond or
how we respond to stuff. Not at all.
How we're living.
It's actually the opinions, and in many cases, the unchecked, negatively biased opinions. So when I talk about narrative, I'm talking about a very specific thing, which is what you need to do is, number one, go and write down your narrative. Just stream of consciousness. I was 7, my mom spanked me, couldn't tie my shoes, whatever. And then go through and audit that narrative and actually look at what the opinions are. And if they're negative, circle all the opinions. But if they're negative, number 3, cut them out like the stage 4 pancreatic cancer that they actually are. And then number 4, rewrite the opinion to the positive. And then number 5, finally go and do a second draft of your new narrative. That has to do with part 1, is the narrative.
As you're continuing, it makes me think in layman's terms of spiders. It's like a spider, by the fact, is it's a spider and it's smaller than you, and you can outrun it and you can squash it. And
most of them are not dangerous.
Most of them are not poisonous, and they actually help you by killing bugs. But if your opinion is scary, 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 frighten,
yeah,
that opinion of it being more frightening than the reality will cause you to respond in a certain way toward the spider.
Exactly right. It's just like if somebody's standing in a bear suit and they're in the woods and they look like a bear and they sound like a bear because they got the soundtrack or whatever, and you believe that they're a bear, your nervous system will respond to them the same as it would a regular bear because of perception. I'm gonna be a pop psychology nerd here for just a minute, and I'm gonna quote the Psycho-Cybernetics quote that I had Joseph remember, and that he actually ended up having tattooed on his chest or his legs or something. This quote is the essence of mental toughness in a single sentence. And the quote goes like this: the essence of mental toughness, Psycho-Cybernetics, according to Maxwell Maltz, the essence of mental toughness is the calm, accurate, and ultimately automatic separation of fact from fiction, fact from opinion, actual circumstance from magnified obstacle, so that our actions and reactions can be solidly based on truth, not our own or others' opinions. If you can separate out fact from fiction, fact from opinion, actual circumstance from magnified obstacle, and rewrite the narrative out so that those opinions, which are the actual stage 4 pancreatic cancer in our narrative, if you can rewrite those as new, fresh, healthy tissue through a series of writing and auditing, and then blend that new narrative with pushing recovery mechanisms into your body, hydration, sleeping, meditation, resting, putting your phone down, getting 8 hours, 9 hours, 10 hours of sleep. I slept 14 hours night before last because I was exhausted. I wasn't feeling well. So I just slept. The best form of rest and recovery that you can get is sleeping. Number 1. Number 2 is proper hydration and proper diet. Number 3 is going to be resistance training and light cardio, movement and muscle pliability. If you start pushing physical recovery, exercise, hydration, and sleep, mental recovery, reading stuff, meditation, emotional recovery, spending time with people that love you and that you love, that you can take your armor off with, your purple elephant friends is what you call them, and spiritually through whatever your faith is, meditating in the dogma or the scripture that is consistent with what you believe to be true about yourself and your environment and your creator. When you push those ritualistic recovery mechanisms into your nervous system, when you upgrade your narrative and tear out the pancreatic cancer, which is those negative pieces of the puzzle, the opinions that are just killing you, you will start to notice a shift in your overall outlook on life. You'll start to make different decisions. You'll start to study more and get more excited about contribution and growth in a continuum that allows you to focus on things like constraint theory, which is really moving the biggest blocker in your life to getting where you want to go. When I think about mental toughness, when I think about mental toughness is on one side, the experience of trauma is on the other, and the thing that's hanging in the balance that decides which way you're going to go about whatever happened when Johnny got first chair violin when you were 11 is the narrative. Which way does the narrative point? And then what's the nervous system doing? And are you ritualizing? Are you making ritual? Are you religious about the recovery aspects of it? And if you look at that, that is what all great athletes do. It is what the very best in business do. When they say work hard, play hard, what they're really saying is rest and recover with a proper narrative of success, and you will be able to outwork your peers and run circles around them from a productivity standpoint.
How do you, in a difficult situation, because we're so fortunate and we're so blessed, everybody, to have met at such a young age, and we've gone through some difficult situations, but we know that, there's various levels of trauma and difficult situations. I keep coming across someone, not the same someone, but like the stereotype, the archetype person who wants to live peacefully and have peace, but is so hell-bent on their person of the person who's hurt them,
offended them,
to get vengeance. Like they feel like if they forgive or if they let go, that they will, that other person won't pay properly. There's no retribution in that relationship by them forgiving or moving on or letting go. So how do you encourage a very hurt, wounded person who's probably gone through something way more hellacious than anything we've ever gone through to get beyond that feeling of an unfair life, that like they think that if they forgive that person's just going to forever live on easy street and never have to pay for whatever they did, and so they hold on to unforgiveness and not wanting to move on past that because they feel like that's making them pay in some way.
Yeah. How
do you encourage that person to get through that?
Well,
and over
by
that?
helping them come to the realization on their own terms that they're delusional, and that as the greats in ancient Greece said, resentment is the poison that I drink to kill you.
And it's a lovely quote, and I would love to be able to just say that and have it be the Band-Aid or the solution to getting these people through it.
Well, the thing is we're not trying to give them a solution. We're trying to teach them cause and effect. And if they're excited about going to their grave with an offense sitting in their heart and blocking them from all the blessings that God cannot give them because they will not forgive, then okay, right? As long as they know, like, it's our job to try to bring cause and effect, right? Our job is not to try to get people to do stuff they don't want to do. If you want to be offended your whole life and literally have hundreds of millions of dollars that you could make and earn and take care of your family and give away to those less fortunate and be a blessing in people's lives and be an influencer and popular and famous and perfectly healthy and have a private chef and a private driver and live wherever you want to live and dance a jig everywhere you go because people can't wait to hear great wisdom coming out of your mouth, or you can be offended at Johnny because he was not nice to you in third grade because he intercepted a note that you were passing to your girlfriend. It's like, that's, if it's really worth giving up everything in your life so that you can stay offended and have control over the offense, right? That's your prerogative. But at least at least if we can come to you and say, or you could have everything you ever wanted in addition to love and care and concern for this person. I go back to the parable of the guy in the Bible who, and you all don't have to believe in the Bible, that's fine, but there are some good stories in there which seem to resonate. And one of them in the Old Testament, so if people are offended by Jesus, you can go back to the Old Testament, which he wrote, by the way, too. But you can go and look at that, and you can see that there's a guy who is in debt, the equivalent, I think he said, of 10,000 denarii, which is like
several lifetimes.
10 lifetimes, 10,000 lifetimes of work, like more debt than he could ever repay, than his whole village could repay, this guy owed. And whoever extended him that much credit, I want to meet that guy because he has more faith in humanity than most. He gets thrown in jail, and he pleads to the king in the story to be forgiven. And the king hears him out, and he says, "You're forgiven. You're out of jail." And then the same day, he's there shaking his bro down for $50. And he says, off with him to the debtor's prison because he doesn't pay me my $50. And the king hears about this, and he says, "You wouldn't forgive your neighbor, your brother, your community member a loan of $50 to where you want him punished for the $50 he owes, and I gave you freedom and forgiveness of 10,000 lifetimes of debt. Back to jail you go." And that story is so real and so visceral to where once people are confronted with the cause and effect of the fact that everything they've ever done wrong in their entire lifetime, they've been forgiven of, and one guy pisses them off in third grade and they can't let him go, it's really a sign of immaturity, and that person is just not really deserving of the blessings that could come their way.
And even if it's something much more violent, because there are a lot of people that have been through very violent occurrences. What I've found through psychology and studying and literature and all of these biographies of famous people who have had to go through, abuse and sexual abuse and
it's
physical
a lot
abuse.
of people, a lot of successful people had a really hard time with stuff. But then once they use that as a trigger to pivot, I cut you off, by the way. Go ahead.
That's okay. What I was just going to say was what I found is that the offenders, those that are committing the violent acts, are like in monster trucks. And everyone else is like a ladybug. And they, through their violent act, have driven over not just one person, but every person, and don't even know it because they're so conditioned to cause pain and to be violent from whatever they went through that their violent actions are mowing people down. And those that have become victims of that abuse and of that, steamrolling have really had no say, and that's the most that's the most detrimental part. That's probably the most common denominator of being a victim, is the feeling of the loss of your voice and not being able to say anything and not being able to be heard. When I try to attempt to work with people who have undergone trauma, helping them to maybe understand, look, you're a precious ladybug, you're a beautiful butterfly, you're this
Beautiful butterfly.
you're this delicate, unique individual person created by God, and I'm
Snowflake.
sorry you got no, not snowflake. I'm sorry you got steamrolled. I'm sorry that you got
We are sorry
totally
that people get steamrolled.
stomped on
Happens.
by an abuser who abused everything in their life.
Totally.
And so if you decide to wait for vengeance or take on the decision that you're going to be the one that's going to retribute them for what they did to you, you're out of your league, because you're not in a monster truck alongside with them. You're in a totally different class, and it is the classiest act to be able to forgive, to be able to show love, to be able to be compassionate, and to be like Christ and forgive those who persecute them, because they literally know not what they do. And that's my point. When Jesus was saying that on the cross, he was speaking a truth. They know not what they are doing.
That's right. Viktor Frankl talks about the ultimate freedom is the ability to control how you respond to the stimulus. And he learned that by
and find meaning in your suffering.
Exactly. Well, the meaning in the suffering is the control of the response itself. Like, nobody says if you're being beaten, if you're being abused sexually or otherwise, nobody says these things are happening to you and therefore you will respond this certain way. The stimulus is the fact, and actually your subconscious can handle that, no matter how bad it is. What your subconscious cannot handle is caving, rolling over, abdicating. I think there's a poem that is on. I don't know if I could read it. I don't have it prepared, but it's Invictus by William Ernest Henley, and we can put that in the link. But it's beautiful, and it effectively says, "I have agency even in the most adverse situations." Which could come against me like they come against everybody. Everybody has stuff that comes against them. But it's your ability to control your response all the time. You are never, I learned this from my friend Chris Doris, you are never not in the all-in state unless you choose to be. The all-in state is the natural place to be for a human being.
And we pray and hope that everyone who's listening to this podcast right now is in a place where they can find meaning in their situation, and to be able to put the appropriate separation between fact and fiction, between opinion and reality, to find a truth and have that truth be able to conquer over trauma. Truth over trauma. That's what we're talking about today.
Absolutely. The trauma itself is not the truth. The trauma might be factual, but that is not it's not the final say as to how you're going to deal with it.
Thank you for everybody for listening. We appreciate you. We love you. We'd love to hear from you. If you would like to leave a comment on YouTube or any of our various platforms, Instagram,
send us a text,
Facebook.
Send us a
If you know Jeff's
message.
digits, send us a message. We want to hear from you. Hey, if you know my digits, send me a message. We love to hear from you guys, and it was nice. It was a pleasure to meet those of you who watch and listen that we got to meet this week in Turks and Caicos. And we look forward to meeting many more of you in the future. God bless you guys. Have an awesome rest of the week.
Thanks for tuning in.
Bye.
See you.